James Thomas, morning, Blend. We saw a couple of movies over this past couple of days. We're going to start off with a movie called It Ends With Us. And the idea is it's a movie about domestic abuse. It's based on the book by Colleen Hoover, produced by Alex Sachs, Jamie Heath, directed by Justin Baldini. He's also in it, and Blake Lively's in it. But before we actually get into the review, today our guest is Katie, am I saying it right? Dalton, and
Yep.
she's with supportvictims.org. She was also at the movie last night. So one of the things I want to talk about is talk about your organization.
Sure. So, Crime Victim Center is our name. Supportvictims.org is our website. So we're here in St. Louis to kind of help people who have been impacted by crime. So we help people kind of navigate the legal system and what their rights are once they've been a victim. We also have trauma-informed counseling available for anyone impacted by crime. That can be the primary victim or somebody who potentially witnessed a crime or family members who have potentially lost loved ones due to a crime. And then we're just, kind of in the community as much as we can. We serve about 8,000 clients a year. There's way more victims than that in the St. Louis area. So, but we just try to support as many people as we can and kind of help them navigate how that system works. So we work with anybody of any type of crime, but a majority of our clients do come from this intimate partner violence, similar to the story with It Ends With Us.
So
Gotcha.
before Katie gives hers, I want Tony, who he and I were battling last night over what we thought about the movie. So, Katie, you're going to listen to us talk about it. Then we want to hear what your review is. All right, Tony, your take.
All right, so for me, this is the film that really has to be reviewed with two different lenses. As a film itself, not taking any of the subject matter involved, just the film itself. It's cliche, it's predictable, it's sappy, of course. It's a great performance for Blake Lively. I'm very impressed. She gives it her all for sure. But there's a lot of questionable suspend disbelief moments as well, and a very, I don't want to call it in a romantic drama way. It was very normal. However, as for what this film is going to do, that's the most important part. I really find that it's going to empower a lot of people to either recognize the situation they're in or prevent themselves from ever getting into that situation and maybe give them the strength they need, that little extra boost to make sure it doesn't happen to them. It's also going to be very triggering for those that have suffered this either firsthand or similar to the character, witnessing a loved one with it. Uh, I do think it's going to maybe hit them to motivate them to hit those problems they have head on and deal with it rather than keep it in, and maybe that leads to bigger issues down the road. So as a film as a whole, I do think it's worth a watch, especially for females without question. I just If you're taking it just the movie portion, it's not a whole lot that we haven't seen before.
I have to agree with you on that, Tony. It's not a lot we haven't seen before. I thought the film was a little bit soft on the abuse itself. Uh, it definitely kind of soft on it because you're right, there's going to be two lenses on this because you're going to have those who are going to look at it and go, wait a minute, I know people and I've experienced greater abuse than that. And in most cases, there could be some codependency going on there too. So you have to look out for that. And other people look at it, as you said before, maybe I should check into it because it's starting to happen in my life. I maybe need to do something about it. So before we get Katie going again, Tony, what do you give it?
I was bounced between a three, 3.5, and I think with given the fact that how important I do think this is going to be for people, it's going to save lives. In my honest opinion, I will go 3.5 out of 5 for this. I think you talked about being light on the abuse. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that she recognized the signs from having experienced it and was adamant that this was not going to be the way things go for her. Not to give anything else away, but I don't think it was necessarily light on the abuse. But I go 3.5 out of 5.
I'm thinking about it now too. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 too, but I'm still saying she didn't experience what her mother experienced, which is actually more brutal than what she got. So again, 3 out of 5, folks. That's what we got to say. But Katie, let's hear your review on it and what you think.
I read the book, so start by saying that. And whenever I was reading the book, I knew that the movie was coming out, and they already picked who was going to play the cast. And so, first off, I was very shocked by the Blake Lively pick because that's not her typical character. I think she plays, and in the book, that character is very just like that confident. And I feel like Blake comes off very confident in most of her roles. So I actually was impressed with how well she did in this film. I think kind of that portrayal was done pretty well. The guy character, I thought he did phenomenal in that as well. The I appreciate how they did the abuse. It wasn't too triggering, I would think, as far as like they weren't showing a lot of it. It was kind of these glimpses. In the book, it goes into much more details, kind of around that. Obviously, when you read, it's hard to compare a book to a movie because the details that you get in a book, there's no way to kind of portray those details, I think, fully, in a movie. But I do wish that there was a little bit more abuse in the book that I think they could have given a little bit. They also, not to give too much away, did much more of a backstory on the man, who and like kind of why he was that way. And they touched on that a little bit in the movie. But I think it's really important that people talk about that, right? Because, you know, when we're talking about the abusers, and their side of it, like a lot of times those folks, it's because they've had their own past experiences, their own past traumas that have led them to this life, right? And I think that's an important story to tell. And I wish they told that very well in the book, and I wish they would have hit on that a little bit more in the movie.
All right, you've heard it, folks. Tony and I talked about it, but the most importantly is Katie Dalton, who's the executive director. Am I correct on that one? Executive director. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend. I kind of snatched her last night out of the blue, so I know she was like, "Who is this guy?" So, Katie, thanks again for joining us on Morning Blend.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, James Thomas, Morning Blend. We're back. We're talking about instigators. Tony's trying to change his background. There it go. You know I wasn't gonna give him a chance, folks. Never give Tony a chance. Anyway, Tony, I'm gonna let you get started with Instigators.
All right, so here's a film that you're not really expecting a whole lot out of it. It is hilarious. It's a crime comedy. You got Casey Affleck, you got Matt Damon. I'm not going to get into plot specifics because it kind of goes around in different ways. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But we're back in Boston, and that's of course where everyone wants to be when you got these guys around. And it lays a really solid foundation that makes you laugh. But that final third, man, just missed the mark for me.
You know, it's interesting. You're talking about Instigators, but I'm still laughing because guess what? It had a little touch of Deadpool and Wolverine in it because it kept you laughing and like, what's going on here? What's going? It was really well done. It was very well done. Casey Affleck did a great job. Matt Damon caught me off guard with his duh, duh, duh. So I mean, it was kind of like, what's going on? Casey Affleck, his character was a complete moron, but that's another story. How did he win in the end? I have no clue. However, you got to go see Instigators. It stars Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, and guess what? It was real quick, but Ben was in there too. Did you notice that?
I
Ben
personally
was in there
didn't
like
notice
maybe
that.
2 seconds because he was one of the guys talking on the microphone. Anyway, you gotta go see it.
Okay.
Directed by Doug Liman, writers Chuck McLean and Casey Affleck. What do you give Instigators?
I give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's funny. It's a very light watch. You're gonna laugh. But Casey Affleck kind of channels Deadpool-esque Ryan Reynolds here in this for sure. Matt Damon, Hong Chow, I thought gave good performances. The supporting cast here, though, Ron Perlman, Alfred Molina, you got Ving Rhames with a great role. Michael Stuhlbarg, Paul Walter Hauser, Jack Harlow, for those of you that like him as a rapper. A lot of people in this film. It just doesn't have that power, that oomph that you're looking for to really solidify it as a top favorite. But it's not a bad watch there on Apple TV Plus.
No, it's not. And I enjoyed Ron Perlman's performance, and Ving Rhames was in character. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 5 too. All right, there you have it. Instigators, 3.5 out of 5. And The End of Us,
It
you
ends
give
with
it a
us.
3. Yeah, give it a 3. All right, have a great weekend, St. Louis and Kansas City.